as various criminal probes in relation to the retention of classified documents at his private residence and his efforts to overturn the result of the 2020 election, which he lost handily to President Joe Biden. It's the investigation by the Manhattan District Attorney into hush money payments made to a porn star who claimed a sexual encounter with Trump years before the 2016 election that has the nation on edge. Recent activity at a grand jury weighing the evidence in New York, including testimony from Trump's former lawyer Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels herself, has signaled that an indictment could land soon. And with it, history in the making.
The reason that this is a big deal, even if the charge itself is not certainly the most severe of the charges that Donald Trump might eventually face, is that if in fact this happens this week, that the former president of the United States is criminally indicted, it will be the first time it's ever happened. And love or loathe Donald Trump, it's a sad day for America, albeit potentially a valuable lesson in terms of the rule of law.
Sample explains why the effort to silence Daniels was criminal, particularly as it relates to possible campaign finance violations.
Whatever the ultimate charge is, essentially what the district attorney seems to be looking at is that former President Trump, through his attorney, Michael Cohen, paid hush money to the tune of $130,000 to Stormy Daniels in order to keep her quiet in the waning days and the final days and the stretch run of the 2016 presidential election. Now, that in itself wouldn't be the level of a crime that the DA seems to be likely to charge here, but what makes it especially and potentially criminal is that when he paid her in this way, if in fact that's what happened, he then wrote off that expense as legal expenses, when in fact that would be essentially a contribution.
Trump has called the Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg a highly political racist and the case against him a witch hunt, as some leading Republicans rally to his side, including House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who tweeted that this was an outrageous abuse of power from a radical DA, while Trump's former vice president also weighed in.
I'm taken aback at the idea of indicting a former president of the United States. At a time when there's a crime wave in New York City, that the fact that the Manhattan DA thinks that indicting President Trump is his top priority, I think, just tells you everything you need to know about the radical left in this country. It just feels like a politically charged prosecution here.
Bragg, in an internal memo to staff, said they would not tolerate attempts to intimidate the office or threaten the rule of law in New York. Bragg further indicated that law enforcement partners would ensure that any specific and credible threats against his office are fully investigated. He said that, as with all their investigations, they would continue to apply the law evenly and fairly and speak publicly only when it was appropriate, as law enforcement officials assume a forward-leaning posture given recent history when Trump similarly called on his supporters to protest in actions that led to the attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. Sherman Bryceby's SABC News, New York.